My name is Mitch Stein. I am the CEO and co-founder here at Pond. We'll hand it over to Jacob here in a minute, but just wanted to start off by reminding everybody that we are now starting to host these live demos right here on Pond. And it's a great way to learn more in depth about some of the providers and vendors that are on the platform. And if you want to learn more about any of these solutions, feel free to go to the provider, the vendor's page right there on Pond. And you can actually send them a message, ask them clarifying questions, request a meeting, and do that all right here within the Pond platform once you're logged in. So be sure and check that out, especially for Active Replica, who we're talking to now, that has a virtual events and virtual reality platform that Jacob is going to tell us all about today. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Jacob.
Perfect. Hey, everybody. Really great to meet you all. So like Mitch said, Active Replica, we build virtual worlds, often for social organizations or for kind of like, remote socialization events. We do a lot of work with virtual reality, but our platform is actually web-based. And so it's works on kind of like any device, which means you're able to get a lot of folk kind of coming to your virtual experience. We're actually hosting a live event today, and so this session is going to be. I'll be sharing my screen, but you're also welcome to participate and join if you're interested. So what that's going to look like is, we work with a large number of kind of NGOs, nonprofits, and social organizations, and we realized that we have a really interesting connection with a lot of grants and scholarships and opportunities on the one hand, and all of these NGOs and social organizations on the other. So what we're doing today actually is hosting a career and opportunity fair for immersive technology, really to bring together a lot of the social NGOs with some of these scholarships and grants. Our primary purpose is to create these persistent virtual worlds for social organizations so that they can have their own virtual 3D space. And so what I'm going to be walking you all through today is dozens of these linked virtual worlds with people in each of them having conversations, sharing opportunities, getting grants and scholarships in front of each other, and also just kind of building and informing connections between these different communities. The exciting thing, again, is that this is, I would say, optionally participatory. So I'll be sharing my screen, but I'm also going to drop a link here in the chat. It's going to lead you to a 3D web page, basically. And for anybody that would like to actually follow along and join in an embodied sort of way, you're very welcome to. So I'm going to start by sharing my screen here in a sec. Here we go. Oh, wait, actually, let me enable optimize for video clip. Okay, and can you all see my screen here?
Yeah, it looks great.
All right, perfect. So you can see this is just, you can access this in virtual reality, but I'm actually accessing it right now through just a standard web browser. So I'm actually just going to copy the link and post it here in the chat. Anybody who clicks the link will then kind of just drop into this room in an embodied way. Let me mute myself actually so that I'm not speaking to two people at once. And then you'll be able to kind of follow me along on the tour. But one of the main benefits here of this platform is spatial audio. So when somebody else does join the room, again, this is just a staging room that I'm using for our purposes right now. When someone does join the room, I can actually speak to them just like it was on a Zoom call. This is somebody over here right now, potentially one of you. And so to look around, you can left click and drag your mouse to look left and right or up and down. Exactly, great work. And then you can use the WASD keys to walk left and right, basically. And you can walk around like that. What we're going to be doing today is taking a small tour through the Active Replica constellation, which you see here, which is again a series of linked virtual worlds, each one by a different provider, each one with a different opportunity. So we're going to begin with the career fair wing, which is just going to be around this corner. And Manny,
I think there's a reason for the 50,000, and I think.
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
I like that because it needs. I think that's what the projected number needs to be. Can you see if you can find the email?
Yeah, happy to have that conversation. Maybe at the end of the tour here. But yeah, so I'm gonna begin, and we're just going to kind of walk around the corner over here, and I'm gonna walk into this portal. And when I do, it's just going to take me to a different world, right? And whoever was there in the room, you're more than welcome to come and join us here.
So I was like,
Have you been in the other room already?
yeah,
Hey, folks.
through like 3 or 4 rooms, right?
And so here
Yeah.
we actually
Are there
have
any other group that might be here tomorrow that weren't today? I know like Mozilla Hubs
Oh,
had a few
hey,
positions
Colin.
that you guys, right?
Yeah, Mozilla Hub is there now.
But yeah, so here you can see that this is one of our
Yeah.
exhibitor workshop, one of our exhibitor sessions right now. You can see we have a number of participants who are sharing opportunities and engaging with different communities. And so we're bringing people kind of on tours through these different virtual worlds. And right now, this is a session for industry people who are looking to hire or provide internships. An example, it's not in this world. Let me walk around the corner real quick. An example of one of the groups that we're working with, for example, they're reinventing cloth and fiber, and really working to.
There should be an option to create avatar. You're gonna click that.
Really working with. Yeah, here we go. Over here, for example, Sari is one of the organizations working to create new cloth styles and work with communities to basically have like representation of identity through value produced cloth. Sorry, sorry, I'm getting overwhelmed by all the conversations happening in the background. Over here, just jumping through and maybe showing one or two more kind of examples of virtual worlds over here. We have a theater troupe. So Onboard XR is a group of immersive theater performers. They come together through virtual spaces. They host these virtual performances. They're completely.
What kind of performing
make sure I'm not speaking into the room. Welcoming and basically help people who are interested in learning more about immersive technology get their feet wet. No pun intended. When it comes to a virtual performance. And then the last one that I'm just going to jump into here before maybe we pause and kind of go into some of the more specifics is I think there should be a link to here. We'll jump over to PXR. But as you can see, so what we have right now is I think around 25 different virtual worlds that are all linked together. Each with people meeting each other, engaging, socializing, sharing benefits and opportunities, connecting their communities. And I'm looking for a specific, here we go. And for example, I think some of you may be here because of, Antonia gave a presentation earlier in the week about Lanthos. But you can see now how, for example, Ethos Labs, Anthonia's, the virtual world that Anthonia created to keep her youth connected, that they co-created with their youth. Everything from the murals, the games that they play, the actual concept of the space itself, this underwater basketball court, capturing the photospheres, basically everything they did in conjunction with their community and with their organization. You can see how the Ethos space is now connected to this broader ecosystem of virtual worlds, including the Active Replica homepage, scholarship opportunities, and then also again immersive performance and grants, so that there's an opportunity for the youth of Ethos Labs to actually take that next step into their career or into their creative process by building relationships with these other organizations through virtual 3D worlds. So, anyways, that's I know that's a lot, but that's the kind of the high level overview of what we're doing today.
Yeah, I have so many questions and invite anyone watching as well. But what so when someone's creating, at least for this event and those virtual worlds, what was the work like for the organization versus what was their participation like to set their virtual world up? And I guess, is there a spectrum there of how customized it is or where you start?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's really a wide range. For some organizations like Ethos Labs, for example, you can see their little star over there. They really wanted to build everything completely from the ground up, right? And so they came with blueprints. We had collaborative creation sessions with the Athosian youth, multiple kind of iterations building their virtual 3D worlds. But some other organizations, for example, like Langara is a local educational institution. Langara actually wanted something for a graduation ceremony, and they didn't have a huge budget. They only wanted it for initially for one-time use, and so we were able to within 2 or 3 days have their branded space completely set up. And actually, let me just show you what that looks like for a second, and jump over here into our education wing. But yeah, so that's so for example, that was 2 days, a couple $1,000s. They had a graduation ceremony for their 30 youth. The dean of the school showed up, and they were just able to do that with using one of our kind of like starter kit spaces, where they simply provided the graphic designs, and then we branded the space. We created the loading screens. You can see everything's kind of color coded to their organization's standards. And they were able to basically get started 48 hours after we started working together. Oh, hey, Katie. I'm giving there's a webinar tour right now, actually. So. Katie is is one of the representatives from Langara, actually.
Oh, cool. And so whenever one of your customers or an organization sets up these worlds, are they always kind of centrally connected, like in the active replica broader constellation, or is that specifically for this event?
Yeah, so this is specific to this event for right now. We do have the option to be. Oops, I keep getting unmuted whenever I walk into a room. We do have the option for organizations to be persistently linked to other virtual worlds, but often, especially for kind of private internal events, organizations are more interested in being siloed, but then they have the opportunity to be linked up with other organizations when we host these kind of like flagship social events.
Got it.
Yeah.
And what are, obviously there's everything from programming of the organization to fundraising. Could you talk a little bit about some of those use cases where you've seen people use the virtual space?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think what we really find that these virtual worlds are really compelling in 2 main use cases, right? One of them being when you want to have socialization, right? So anytime you would be having kind of like a gala or a party or a group of people coming together socially, where you want to have 30 or 40 people speaking all at the same time, things to do, movement of people through the space, when that kind of culture and identity is really important. So again, graduation ceremonies being a good example. We've done immersive workshops and social events, galas and fundraising obviously being kind of a prime example for that. And also places where you want more of a sense of identity, the fact that your branding is integrated into the space, that you can have your theme song playing in the background, that there's these kind of like emotional calls into people's subconscious that aren't possible through Zoom, right? One of the things that Zoom is really good for is when you have one person speaking and a lot of people listening, especially when it's, like educational or business related, and the like pass through of information is the most important thing. But one of the things that you might not have noticed, because I had my mic muted often, is that almost all of these spaces have their own like theme song and music, and it starts building this sense of cultural identity in a way that we don't see with video conferencing.
Yeah. And
Jacob, are you there?
have you found that people
one sec, guys.
Sure.
Hey Logan, I'm actually giving a webinar tour right now to a group of participants. But I'll be free probably in about 15 minutes, and I'll try to catch up with you.
Oh, no worries.
All right, thanks.
Bye.
Yeah, here, let me actually maybe add that into my username so that here, let me
and maybe you can show us a bit about the avatar, how you like select or change those too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we do have Let me see if I can, okay, that works. Integrated avatar creation system as well. So here you're able to basically just take a photo of your face. Here we go. Let's see. That's me.
Wow.
And beautiful shot.
Candid.
Yeah, exactly. And after, again, 5 or 10 seconds, it actually ends up creating something that looks somewhat like me. Actually, I think it looks a little bit more like Mitch, but let's see, continue without sign up. And then you can see that this will actually apply to my avatar right now. And so in just a few seconds, you're actually able to have kind of a humanoid representative avatar of yourself, all within the platform.
Very cool.
Right?
And is
Actually,
there an option to do something? Oh, I see. And you can choose all those outfits. Is there a way to do?
we definitely have more, we have a wide range of more creative non-humanoid avatars as well. But
Okay.
what we find, again, especially for these social events, the fact that it didn't give me any hair is, okay, there we go. Yeah, sorry, the fact that we have many of these social events where people know each other in real life, what we found is that when groups of people who know each other can actually see each other, it helps create the kind of cohesion that you get from real world encounters. Whereas when people have very abstract avatars, and that's actually really useful when people don't know each other and they want to kind of themselves into a particular identity. But yeah, we're compatible with both systems.
Or if you're like me, I could see what I look like with hair.
Exactly.
Nice feature.
Yeah. Any questions from the audience or anything like that?
Yeah, if anyone has questions, feel free to jump in. I would also just be curious when I'm thinking about people deploying this. What do you find works well if people are worried that they don't have a tech savvy group or a tech savvy audience, and just like doing something VR sounds like intimidating?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we do find personally that the most engagement we see is with like youth organizations and like organizations of people kind of like more comfortable with technology. That said, something that we do for all of our performances or all of our events is actually also have a parallel live stream. So we actually have a dedicated cameraman right now who's walking around getting footage of the event, so that if people are less comfortable being here in person, they're still able to participate and be part of it. At the end of the day, and then I guess the other answer that I would have is that virtual worlds are becoming more and more prevalent and kind of entering more and more of our general use, right? And I think at the end of the day, like if we look back to 2020, when people were installing Zoom for the first time, people weren't sure how to interact over Zoom, over video conferencing, right? And you just had to kind of like jump in and get started, And I think that there's just going to be more and more instances of virtual worlds kind of being available as a tool for people to use. And even if you aren't familiar with it, I would say most people aren't familiar with it, and it's just you get more familiar by using it. So
yeah, and I think
one last thing actually that I'll add as a note there to highlight is also the accessibility. I think it makes a huge difference. Like the fact that you can just go to activereplica.io right now and join this event, and I can see you walking around, makes it much more approachable for people compared to having to download an application, create an account, add your credit card details, and kind of all of that. And obviously we do have kind of a more advanced security suite right now because we're inviting a lot of general participants. This is quite open, but yeah, we find that the accessibility aspect of it really helps, especially with more non-technical audiences.
And do the spaces that people create, do they just sort of persist that they can jump back in and reuse, or how do you see people generally like re-engage with those virtual spaces over time?
Yeah, we one second. Again, everybody wants to chat.
Popular around here.
So one of the things that we see is, again, like both a combination of single events, right? So, hey, we're hosting a graduation ceremony and we want to, we have people who can't be here virtually or who can't be here in person. we're going to come together virtually through a virtual space like this. And versus, sorry, I lost the thread there for just a second. I overheard a conversation about this.
No, no worries. No worries.
Can you remind me what your
Yeah, we were discussing a single event versus like, does the space
yeah.
persist forever, or like how do they re-engage with it often?
Yeah, so what we often do is we'll build a space for a particular event, and then if the organization wants it to be persistent, we can keep it online indefinitely. And if they want it to be a single event, we can then kind of spin it down at the end of the event. But what we often find is that an organization will come host an event with us, spin it down, and then a month or 2 months later come back and be like, hey, actually, we want to host. Excuse me, we want to host another event. Actually, we want this to become a persistent virtual world. Or, for example, in the instance of Langara, the educational institution that we just saw, they hosted a virtual event. That was good. And then when they heard that we were going to be having this career and opportunity fair, they then engaged the platform so that they could take part in it.
Awesome. And I know you mentioned, so there's obviously like the ability to walk around and see these different things and talk to people. You mentioned that, like, especially for, Ethos, that there was like games or art, or what I don't know if it's possible to see or show some of those like interactive capabilities.
Yeah, well, just off the bat, obviously we have things like screen sharing. This is media frame.
Oh, cool.
So we're just getting a little bit of recursion here, obviously, but you can share your screen and also share your camera, just kind of like anything that you'd be able to do in traditional, video conferencing. Definitely works here. Also, you're able to spawn, do things like draw, and also spawn 3D models as well. So something that we actually have a toolkit for, which I'm not going to show right now. But is the ability to basically create like almost a 3D PowerPoint, right? So, and right now I'm basically doing this all on the fly, but you can basically pre-script this. So if you're giving a presentation on like an educational subject, you can actually spawn in 3D models in particular locations and kind of build up this virtual 3D narrative, again, in the same way that you would go through a series of slides in video conferencing. You're going to be able to instead kind of go through a series of 3D models and have 3D models spawn and kind of supplement and support the presentation or the workshop that you're hosting.
Wow, that was so cool.
I know, it definitely does feel like magic at some points. We can also do things, obviously, like change the scene that you're in. So if you have a group of 30 people in a particular room, you can also kind of like move everybody to a completely new location as well.
So people don't get lost on the way.
Yeah, exactly. Or, for example, the other day we were giving a presentation out here and we had everyone out in this desert gathered around kind of this central podium area. And then we said, okay, hey, we're the James Webb Telescope just launched. So, let's go, out into space. And rather than having people walk through a portal, you're just able to have basically fade into a completely different place, and everybody was still in the same spot. If that makes sense.
Yeah. That's so cool. And is there, like, when you're spinning up those items, or I guess is that, like, I saw a basketball court, did some of these things turn into like games while they're there, or like some sort of video game element?
Not so much right now. There are some video game elements. We don't have like a scoring system or like a physics engine so much. So while there are a lot of games and activities that can kind of take place in these virtual platforms, what we often find is that they're actually more human-centric, right? So like things like hide and seek, treasure hunts, anything that you would do if you actually had a group of 20 or 30 people together in a room with nothing to do, tag, things like that. Whereas more like traditional video game platforms where you can like create resources and get points and win the game and stuff like that, we don't have that system integrated.
No, I'm just, there's so much that we walk by. I just wanted to kind of dig in a little bit further. It's so neat.
Here's another example of an organization that we're working with. This is Climate Gallery. They're building climate-themed virtual worlds, right?
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
this
like
is
my
kind of how it
condescending
was.
response to that.
And so
Yeah, that's
they're
fine.
doing these art projects, for example, with repurposing fiber and then 3D scanning the cloth, for example, and actually bringing it into these virtual environments, and then getting grants for the artists doing this climate-focused work. So yeah, another example of an organization that's really experimenting a lot with the medium and doing work for good as part of that.
So cool.
Yeah. And this is, they're actually launching, I think, 12 spaces, of which this is a work in progress version of the first space. But yeah. Let's see, let me maybe.
And so if folks are, so they were scanning or doing some, it sounds something a little bit more technical, but I assume if you've got just photo capture or video capture that you're able to put those things kind of in this gallery setting pretty easily as well.
Yeah, exactly. I can actually drag and drop things directly from my desktop, right? So if we say New York City, right? And we grab, just like, or here, actually, I already have something on my desktop. I can just grab this picture, and I can actually just literally drag and drop it right into the frame here. Boom. And now I have the picture in my virtual world. Yeah.
That's amazing. And that's you don't have to be a host to do that. Kind of anyone participating can.
Exactly. And so we, have worked with organizations before. For example, a group of therapists worked with a bunch of autistic teens on the platform actually recently. And one of the things that they did was ask people they created a 3D model of a tree. And then they asked people to find pictures that were meaningful to them. And then they kind of like hung the pictures all around the tree as part of this group process, for example.
Yeah, I was just thinking because you can either get like selfies or pictures from anyone in the audience and create that kind of like live art.
Yeah, totally. You can also take selfies here, Hey. But yeah. So there's my selfie. But yeah, no, and again, one of the things that we're really excited about is that this is just really nascent technology, and there's a lot of room to discover, right? Like, I'm sure other people have done it, but to my knowledge, this is one of the first instances of this many virtual worlds all being linked together in parallel simultaneously. And there's something really it's just such a cool opportunity to bring communities that might not have other opportunities to kind of break into the space, and like helping bring this emerging technology to organizations that are really keen for it,
Well, yeah, and it's great that you can get some inspiration from what others are doing too by making that all accessible, or at least the ones that are, open to the public.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, I think that's probably most of the questions. I'm happy to keep going if there's any more questions, but I think we've covered a lot of the key features here.
I just want to make sure we got all those little tricks out because those were really cool. And I guess if people are, I know we mentioned some of the like easier starter stuff that you can do, but maybe it'd be helpful just to walk through like how people typically get started or process, kind of what the pricing range can be, just to give people a sense of that if they want to get moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the kind of starter end, working with like a pre-built virtual space, hosting a single event on like a single day. That's usually in the single digit thousands, like $3,000 to $5,000 for most of those events. And, we appreciate kind of a couple weeks worth of lead time for something like that in order to be able to fully support it. We have virtual event managers, right? So one of the things that I guess we didn't see as part of this is we work with, virtual event coordinators. We have virtual performers and hosts and greeters and musicians and kind of the full suite of like everything that you need to actually make an event run smoothly is kind of like part of these packages. But then if an organization is interested in more having their own persistent virtual world that they really want to have created bespoke or custom, we do custom work as well for the ethoses out there that they really want to have their own sense of identity. And those range anywhere from like 15 to 30K to basically kind of create that process, create that virtual world, and then have kind of like a premiere launch event sometimes, which stretches into, several days to a week. For example, we actually hosted Mozilla's annual conference on our platform in March. And that was, we spent 6 weeks building their virtual world. They had several hundred people passing through it over the course of like a week. And so that's kind of more on the upper end of the services.
Okay. Great. That's great context and just so cool. Congratulations on building this, and exciting to see how people are using it and getting so creative. So I really appreciate you sharing that with us today, Jacob.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody. See ya.